Here we are.
Here we are.
On Bridges of Light.
Yes, Bridges of Light International. My name is Arianna Mendo. I'm Italian.
And I'm Enrico Gelain. Italian too, of course. And we are here to speak to you about sacred places of energy.
And we are both researchers in this field, and we've been researching for many years now. Personally, I am originally from Turin, the north of Italy, but at a point in my life, I moved to the beautiful island of Sardinia. Because on this island there are some very ancient places, sacred places of the ancient civilization who lived on that island, and I moved there in order to study, research and learn more about these places and their special energies. I am actually an astrologer too, and before moving to Sardinia, I was already very much into the field of subtle energy. So we would like tonight in this live make you travel throughout some places of special energy, especially places based in Sardinia, where we organize special excursions to see and experience these places, and also special events throughout the year. For example, during the solstices and during the equinoxes, and we will explain you why, showing you some slides, because during this speech we will also show you some slides in order to get really into these special places. So welcome to everybody who is here now. Yeah. Yes, I also would like to underline anyway that tonight we are not only going to see some places based in Sardinia, but also some other places that we have been studying and researching that are placed somewhere else in the world, because we also organize, after years of research, special trips to other places with celestial phenomena, places of energy that are really worth seeing. And we really hope to organize much more in the future to come. This is our plan, because we really want people to learn about these places and experience, especially experience the energies of these places. Our trips, journeys, excursions are always very experiential.
Yeah. Relating about this, we also have already done a lot of international tours, because actually we have already cooperated with megalithomania.co.uk, which is a group which deals with mysteries of ancient places, and it's not specifically about energy places, but actually 80% of the times this group deals with energy, with symbolism, with ancient mysteries, and all the knowledge that the spiritual civilization that lived on this planet have left us. And we have already done a couple of tours with this group, and we are going to also do many more in the future.
Yeah, this is actually our plan, and so I think we can start with this journey. Yes, we can start, and we will start with Sardinia because, as I was just saying, this is the place where I started, and then Enrico came some years afterwards. But this is the place where I started this very unusual, if you like, very special kind of research about energy places. And we have to say, first of all, that Sardinia is a very ancient island. And it is one of the four most ancient places in the world. And for this reason, the island is very, very strong, energetically speaking. Another place which is very old is, for example, Australia. But Sardinia is really very old. And for this reason, because in ancient times there was a very acute, very sharp awareness of the energies emitted by Mother Earth, the civilization that lived on the island of Sardinia found really an ideal place where to build megalithic constructions or mold the rocks because of the energy itself that the island emitted. And the civilization of Sardinia was based on a spiritual awareness, and so life was considered sacred, and they honored all the aspects of life. It is a civilization that started a long time ago, and we can start from 7000 BC. So very, very early, we can already talk about a civilization that had a social structure. Of course, the human presence is much older than this on the island, but they started to be organized in villages and with a proper social structure started from 7000 BC. That is a time when this civilization just carved the rocks in special shapes, and anyway already had some special sacred places. But it is later on that they started to build sorts of monuments, let's say. They started really to carve in a more sophisticated way the rocks of which the island is really filled. It's really filled with a lot of rocks, you know. It's also a very mountainous place, Sardinia. So what are we seeing here, Enrico, in this picture?
This is one of the oldest places in Sardinia, and which is part of the earlier period in which they only carved the rocks. And of course they even at those times they were very, very knowledgeable about especially two spiritual principles: the earth energies and the sky energies and alignment. So they were able to find these energies with a special shamanic skills like the dowsing rod in order to find the right places where to build their monuments. And they also had the knowledge of aligning these monuments to the stars, the sun, the moon, and all the sky phenomenon, because they were very knowledgeable about astrology and astronomy.
Yes.
What we see now is actually a Domus de Janas, which is kind of monument. You can find 4 or 5 different kinds of monuments in Sardinia. And the Domus de Janas is a kind of monument of the earliest part, which is actually a grotto, a cave, excavated by themselves in the living rock. As you can see, there are some caves inside.
Yes, and this dates back to 3500 BC, so very, very old time, the time which is called pre-Nuragic, because this civilization was actually split into two periods by the archaeologists. The so-called pre-Nuragic period, because it is before they started to build the monument, which is the symbol of the island, the Nuraghe, a tower-like monument. And then we have the proper Nuragic period from 2500 BC until the Roman conquest in 238 BC.
What we are seeing now is the best preserved hypogeum in the whole of Europe and maybe the world, or also second only to the hypogeum of Malta, which is a 3-story hypogeum.
Yes.
Let's go inside of it, and here we are. This monument is very, very big. It has a lot of chambers, hidden chambers and chambers after chambers, all connected by small doors, like you see, small entrances which were carved. And this is the main room you are seeing now, which has different peculiar carvings and also some frescoes of a later period, the Byzantine period, but we are talking now about the pre-Nuragic era in which this monument was built. And you can see on your left a double false window or false door. You can see two squares, one inside the other, and this is a very peculiar false window or false door because it marks a very peculiar phenomenon which is linked to the winter solstice.
Yes. Okay, we have to say that behind the walls and behind this wall and this false door, there are old burials, because the Domus de Janas were temples of burials. There were burial places, and only the bones were actually put inside the small chambers that were actually carved behind these walls that we see. The walls where you see the false door. So the whole place was actually conceived with a special purpose. And the purpose was that of allowing the souls of the people buried there to reach the sky, to reach the other dimensions.
So why a false door? Of course, because it is a door carved on a wall, but it is false because it's not an opening. You cannot cross that door with your physical body. This means that this door must be crossed spiritually. So it will be your soul which will have to cross that door, not your physical body. This is the symbol, the meaning of a false door. When you have a false door, it means your material body cannot cross that space. You can only cross it with your soul. And so,
yes, we also have to underline that this area is really full of burials. There are hundreds of burials all along the hills that you find in that area of Sardinia, okay, which is actually in the northern western part of Sardinia.
So how can you allow the souls of the bodies buried here to go into the light? Simply by using very sophisticated alignment, which is still preserved today. You can still see this phenomenon, even if the calculations were made for the years 3500 BC. You can still see the phenomenon.
Yeah.
Here we are. This is the entrance, the floor or the entrance of this very peculiar monument, hypogeum. You can see it is carved with different cup marks, which are rituals cups, which were used to put herbs or different kinds of vibration or memory energetical imprints. Okay, so it was used for ritualistic purposes during the normal days of the year, but during the winter solstice, these very big series of cup marks were filled with water, as you see in this picture. Why is it so? Because they did it like this in order to allow the light to be mirrored by the water in order to be aligned inside this temple. This temple actually has 3 chambers on 3 levels, upward levels. And so in order for the rays of the sun, which are going downwards, to take an upward angle, they needed to use this mirror. So they used the cup mark filled with water as a mirror to change the angle of the sunlight in order to obtain this effect.
Yes.
And here we can see the 3 different chambers, one after the other. And on the left picture, you can see a picture from the inside to the outside, where the sun is reflecting on the water. Meanwhile, on the right side, you can see a picture of this ray of light that has been mirrored and are marking peculiar positions on the wall of the different chambers.
And this is a phenomenon that happens every year on the day of the winter solstice, so on the 21st of December, and it actually happens a day before and a day after. And that was a very important part of the year, because it was the time when it was the light was actually lower at the lowest point on the horizon, and the days were the shortest. It is still today like this, of course. And to them, for this reason, this was very, very important, because after that period, then the light would increase again. Okay, so it was important to celebrate when the light was at its lowest position. And we also have to understand that to the vision of those people, the sun was considered really like a god, you know, and
life giver.
Yeah, it was the life giver. And the cults were actually so very much connected with the moon and the sun and some special stars, because human beings in those days, observing nature and observing the sky, had really found out that the sky gives very precise phenomena in cycles that repeat themselves and show that there is an order, a harmony in our creation, in the place where we live, in our universe. And to them, this was very, very important, because it was a symbol that the creation, the universe, is based on a very harmonious pattern, a pattern of harmony. This was a very, very important awareness to the people of those days. And that is why they used to celebrate in those special days. And they consider really themselves embedded in this harmony, part of this harmony. And to them, this harmony was something that you could find around us, inside Mother Earth, but also in the sky.
So during those days, you will see this incredible phenomenon, which will last about 3 hours in this specific site. Mm-hmm. And you will see, always on the right picture, the sun crawling, the reflection of the sun crawling on the walls, reaching the third chamber and hitting in a very, very precise manner the fourth door you have seen earlier. So this is the first picture, and then on the left, the same picture between the first and the second chamber. On the right, the sun is between the second and the third chamber.
It's really beautiful to see.
Yeah, and then was a pity that that day a cloud arrived exactly at the
yes.
very precise minute in which the sun will touch the false door. So I don't have the pictures of the sun reflecting on the false door. But this was a way for the souls that were buried there to see the light at the end of the tunnel, literally. Yes. And so it was marking a way to a path to allow the soul to escape this dimension and go towards the sky.
It's really what is really exciting about this place is that they actually are related to many different symbols. And one of the symbols here is really the expression in the architecture and through the light of the trip, the journey that the soul makes when the soul leaves the body. And so we know nowadays through the experiences made by some researchers, the near-death experiences, that we cross a sort of tunnel. But this is something that people in those days knew very well through their astral journeys, which was a very common practice. Those were very shamanic cultures, and so it was a common practice, during their shamanic journeys, to reach other dimensions, and they were very much aware that the soul has a journey, when the soul leaves the body. And so it was really expressed in the architecture and in the light, which is really amazing.
Here you can see the top of this site, in which a natural rock was carved in the form of a bull. This was because actually this bull was also aligned to the west, to the cardinal point where the cave was pointing at. And on those days, actually, there was the cult of the bull. Because on those days, you will have the Taurus astrological sign aligned in those days.
At the equinox.
At the equinox. And this was a very peculiar belief that the bull, for them, was had the meaning of abundance and life, strength of Mother Earth, and it was synonymous with life. And they were always pointing at the bull constellation. In fact, astrologically, at those days, they were living in the astrological epoch of the Taurus, the age of Taurus. And also the monuments built on in the later period were mimicking the same shape you are seeing now on the sky, which is the head of a bull with 2 horns.
Unfortunately, here we do not have the head of the bull left, because the Christians, when they arrived here on the island, because this was of course considered a pagan kind of cult, you know, they destroyed actually the head, unfortunately, because the place you have just seen then became a Christian church. But it's really amazing to see that so early people were so aware of the celestial phenomena, and they built their sacred places with such an attention. Later on, during the Nuragic period in Sardinia, we find this kind of monument. There are plenty of them, hundreds all over the island. And these are called the giants' graves. Again, we are talking about a burial kind of monument. And referring to the bull, actually here we have a monument that resembles the head of a bull with the horns right there. And this is the head of the bull. Again, we have this symbol, which is the symbol of life as well, because the bull really has a lot of strength. When you see a bull, you know, it is, or a cow anyway, because we can also see the feminine counterpart. And actually, these monuments that were related to death were not a symbol of death, but of eternal life, you know. And here
this monument actually is aligned to the perfect east, and east is the cardinal point where the sun will be reborn again each day, and is the cardinal point where you will see the Taurus constellation during the equinoxes. So the whole structure is facing the bull god, the Taurus god, and the sun god at the same time. Both of them signifying life.
Yes, we actually think that these giants' graves, because of the shape, were built still in the age of Taurus, because each age anyway lasts for longer than 2000 years, so a long time actually. And this is what happens, the celestial phenomenon happening every year, twice a year during the equinoxes. That is on the 21st of March and the 23rd of September. If you go to this place at dawn, you will see the sun align perfectly inside the tomb. And this ray of light will actually go all along the burial place. because this part of the monument was in those days completely covered up, it was covered. Nowadays it's partly demolished. And so again, in the cover part, there were the burials, and again the light reaching the people buried there.
Also, the masculine light penetrating the dark chamber or dark womb of a woman in order to give birth. There's also this symbol. And so again, it is a place of eternal life. It's not a burial, but of course, it was a burial because they found the skeletons, but the ritual was again the same that we saw at the Domus de Janas, in which the body will remain inside the burial, and instead the soul inside the dark chamber, the womb, will be reborn again thanks to the light, and the light will mark again the proverbial light after the dark tunnel.
Yes, and really what I find,
which is again the same thing you will see when you are born.
Yeah, and what I really find always amazing, Enrico, is that they knew so well what light means, that light is actually at the source of the creation of our universe. And these people were able to capture the light inside their sacred architecture, and they were really the architects of light and stones, and this I find always really amazing. It's so beautiful, and for us today I think it's such a strong message, because you can see something that, by the way, nowadays the quantum physics and other researches are pointing out, but here we can actually experience can actually experience this, we can observe it and see it, and also we can actually get this energy within our field, the field, the aura and our body. So the energy field, our energy field, because the energy of this light is so vibrating, and you really feel something happening when you get inside this light and you absorb it. I think we have some other slides about this.
Not on the giants' graves.
But in other monuments. Okay, this is an example of this energy
of quantum physics.
Taken by an infrared camera, exactly there where you have just seen the light, and so you can see that there is actually an energy coming out from that place.
They are very simple monuments, actually. They are not so elaborate, but the elaboration is in the symbols they represent, and in the light, the phenomenon that they show, actually. They are not carved like in a Renaissance monument, but they are still very, very complex and dense of meanings.
Yes. And where we can actually see this phenomenon of light very well is in the symbol of Sardinia, the monument called Nuraghe, which actually, from a root coming from the Sumerian language, Akkadic Sumerian language, Nur means light, so it's the Tower of Light. And here you see a reconstruction, a complete reconstruction of a complex nuraghe, because nuraghes could be simpler and more complex, and they were actually really beautiful monuments in those days, really resembled the castles of the medieval time.
And this is one of the side chambers or side towers, it depends on the monument. As you can see, there are very, very big fissures on the wall. Those were used as calendrical chambers in order to capture the light of the sun, of the moon, or fixed stars, or even some constellations also in different time frames or of the year. And you will see one of these calendrical chambers in action. This is another nuraghe, and as you can see, in this case the light it has been captured at dawn. So when the sun is really horizontal on the horizon, and you will have these rays of light entering one fissure and hitting the other, marking a different phenomenon, because not everybody knows that, but actually there are meanings, and also in the movement of the sun. The sun will show us its secrets when it does this phenomenon, because you have at the dawn of the winter solstice, the sun's beam will mark the exact point on the horizon where the phenomenon of the sunset of the of the summer solstice will happen, and vice versa. So you will have at dawn of the winter solstice, the sun will mark the point of the on the horizon where the sunset of the summer solstice will happen.
Yes,
making tracing these beams of light on the floor, and designing a very peculiar symbol, which is the double X.
Here we have a picture of a very beautiful nuraghe, the nuraghe Losa, and if you see, the stones are really massive, you know, and they were actually put together without using any kind of glue or cement or concrete,
some of these stones will weigh more or less also 6 tons and something.
Yes, very big, you know, and so they are really amazing structures. And nowadays we know there are about 8,000 of these nuraghes, but there were many more in those days.
Yeah, probably it is esteemed that at those times they were more or less 20,000 of these towers.
So it was a way to build really a sort of sacred landscape, because we find this monument everywhere on the island.
This is another calendrical chamber.
Yeah, and they were around the main tower, and here we have the main tower of the nuraghe. And there's still quite a lot of discussion going on the use of the nuraghe. But when we think that the nuraghe is a dark place, a dark tower, of course, you cannot think but it was a temple, because if the use had been a different kind, you wouldn't find such a dark room, you know. And
if you need to leave, you need light to see, to do things.
Yes.
And in the room was completely covered, so you cannot even light a fire, because in a quarter of an hour you will get totally intoxicated by the smoke. So they are not rooms for living. They are sacred places to celebrate the light.
Yeah.
And why they were dark? Because of course, if you are on the outside, in a very light place, you cannot see the light. Paradoxically, there's so much light that you cannot see the beam. Instead, if you produce a very dark room, you will see very peculiar phenomenon like those we are watching now in this other picture.
Yes, and here we see what made at a point during the 70s change the idea of the use of the nurag, because before that most archaeologists believed that they were used probably as fortresses, and or maybe some archaeologists even thought about places to store things, you know. But during the 70s, an archaeoastronomer arrived on the island of Sardinia to teach at the University of Cagliari, and going around the island and seeing these amazing monuments, he thought that probably they also had alignments, just like other places that had already been studied in other parts of the world, like Egypt or Malta or Stonehenge in England. And so he started to work in this place, to research, to see if they actually could show some celestial phenomena. And actually he found out, together with other astronomers and researchers of the island, he found out that actually there was this beam of light coming into the main chamber during the summer solstice. If you look at it, it's really wonderful, really amazing light. You see, just like a laser.
And here we can see other pictures of the beam of light. And you can maybe think that this ray of light will happen every time, because in a dark room you just remove the top stone and it will produce a beam of light. It's not like this. If you see the section I've shown you before, the structure of the tower, it is not symmetrical, it is asymmetrical. So the weight of the walls is different. In order to produce an asymmetrical tower, to have the sun of the solstice being captured, and in order to produce an alignment inside the small niche you are seeing below of these pictures now.
So imagine yeah, the amazing technique that they had anyway, you know. Also, partly is the technique to build a monument, but the other one was the one to align it perfectly. And here you see the effect on the people that are under the beam of light. So actually what we think is that in those days, the priests and priestesses of those people used to gather in the days of the solstice in order to absorb this light with an amazing celebration. And still nowadays, so if you go there during those days and you stand there or you sit there under this beam of light, then you can actually see our aura, you know, and you see that is really our personal aura that emerges from this light, because these two people really show a very different aura.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really beautiful, and it's nice and really amazing what you experience, because you really feel the energy of this beam of light. And when we go there, because we organize special events on those days, we have organized one for this year as well, and we hope we will manage to do it. We celebrate with a ritual and with a meditation, so that we can have a very deep healing through this light.
This is another alignment which will happen on the winter solstice inside the nuraghe, and again on the right picture you will see the symbol of the Taurus. In this case, the beam of light is taking the shape of a bull's head. Very, very distinct. You can really see it.
It's really beautiful. Yes. And this is another beautiful nuraghe near Oristano. And then in Sardinia we also have this other kind of monument, which is really very specific of the island, the sacred wells. They were built especially during a period in between the 11th and 9th century BC, when the cult of the waters became more important on the island. And again, some of these monuments were built aligned to celestial phenomena, like this one in the area of Nuoro. Here you see the water of the well. And here the phenomenon happening every year at the summer solstice, when at dawn around 6:30 the sun hits the monument and then actually gives light to the whole of the niche, which is not usually touched by the light during the rest of the year. But during those days, the days of the solstice, then you get the light really inside the niche where the water is, and you get this beautiful phenomenon where you actually see your hand upside down. In one case, the other case is the right position.
Downside up.
Yeah, exactly. And you have this phenomenon with the light of the reversed, which is connected with the idea of this civilization that the other realm, the realm, let's say, of the dead, is upside down, is reversed in comparison with the terrestrial realm. And so people would go to the other realm during their last journey upside down.
Because of course the souls of the dead people will actually have to walk towards the stars. So if you have to walk towards the stars, you will have the feet upside down, downside up. And again, we can see the phenomenon of the reverse, which I was telling you about also in the first Domus de Janas. That is why the hypogeum was built in order to reflect the sun, using the water as a mirror, in order to change the inclination of the sun.
Yes.
And again, upside down, downside up.
It's really beautiful. We actually had a lot of fun at a point. We had a meditation first, and so.
And then played with the Chinese.
Yes.
Chinese shadows.
Yes, it was really. We also had a lot of fun doing that. Yeah, and this is the most amazing monument of Sardinia, very sophisticated well. It's one of the most beautiful monuments we can find on the planet, I have to say. And if you have a look at the entrance of this well, which is actually very deep inside Mother Earth, you see that it was actually built in such an exquisite way and so precise, if you look at these stones. And you have you have stairs going down, reaching the well, but if you see in this picture, you also have stairs going up, meaning again the dimensions of the earth and the dimensions of the sky, mirroring each other. Here we have the drawing of this well.
View.
It's beautiful. It really resembles a womb, so it's the representation of Mother Earth. And on the right, you see actually the hypogeum, which is actually
the vault of the hypogeum,
which is so well carved, you see, and from there you actually get some light from the top, which is open. It's really beautiful. And here you see the stairs going down, and here we have a view from the well, and again you see the opening, which is really amazing the way it was built. And what is amazing about this place is that you have many different celestial phenomena. One of them occurs during the equinoxes, and that is the only time of the year when you get the sun reaching the whole of the chamber of the well, So when you climb down the stairs during those days, you will see yourself mirrored in the waters, but at the same time, amazingly, you will see yourself mirrored on the walls in front of you, and you are within your field of light, our aura, and upside down, meaning that now you are walking the stairs reaching the sky. Isn't it amazing?
So many symbols inside such a very simple structure, as I told you before,
but very complex at the same time.
Very
to
complex.
Get such a sophisticated kind of phenomenon. Here we have other pictures that we have taken over the years. You see, they're really marvelous, the way you see yourself mirrored, and it's like a mirror where you see yourself, and it's a confrontation with your inner self, because when you climb down the stairs, it is actually, the symbol is the encounter with yourself, with your inner part.
Here you see the structure with all the alignment, and the sun alignment and the moon alignment, which we have to explain to you. We have not yet mentioned it. And this is the only monument on Earth in which we have the alignment of the 18 years and a half moon cycles from the top, because there are other alignment of this moon cycle in an horizontal manner, many times in England on the sacred, of course, hinges, on the stone circles. With the stone circles, it's really simple to build an alignment on a place on the horizon, but making an alignment from the top is really quite more difficult to do it. In this case, every 18 years and a half, on the night of the full moon, the closest full moon to the winter solstice, you will have the moon entering from the top hole of the monument and mirroring again the mirror thing, the mirror symbol, mirroring herself completely on the water inside the well.
Yeah, and that is really an amazing phenomenon, and it was discovered for the first time in 1972, again by the same astronomer Edoardo Proverbio. And energetically speaking, all these monuments have a very high vibration, a very high frequency, which of course gets higher and higher during the days when these phenomena occur, because the energy of all the celestial bodies enhances, amplifies the natural energy of these places, which were actually built already on very strong magnetic points of the Earth. So we have to say that in this civilization there was a very deep and precise knowledge of vibrations, of subtle energies, and they knew how to use these energies both for spiritual purposes and also for healing, because then they were used for healing. All the sacred wells were used for healing. And we know this for sure because during the archaeological excavations, there have been found symbols showing this, you know, that they were used for healing purposes. So really amazing places.
So these are two of the phenomenon which can occur here in Santa Cristina, and now we will see the third one. Again, this is in this case the summer solstice. In this case, the sun will enter the same top hole of the vault where the moon will enter during the winter solstice, but in this case, actually, the sun will not manage to reach the same inclination of the moon. So only the moon will be able to mirror herself inside the water. The sun will
every
never,
18 years and a half.
Every 18 years and a half. The sun instead has a constant cycle. It will reach every year the same step you are seeing now on the wall. Meanwhile, the moon will reach every year a different step until it reaches the water every 18 years and a half. And then she will crawl up and then crawl down and crawl up and crawl down.
So this was like, of course, a way to observe the astronomical phenomena. Yeah. So that was another way of using these sacred places. But everything was sacred, the sky was sacred, the celestial bodies were sacred, and so observing the celestial bodies was a way to talk, to be in a constant conversation with the sacred celestial bodies. If you look at these pictures, you see that this light is so beautiful. It really seems to be almost supernatural. You know, because again, you see the place, the chamber is really dark, and then you see the effect of this light.
Lighting up each and every step, making like the drops of light.
Yeah, it's really beautiful, and it really you really get such a strong emotion. And then when you think about the whole thing, you know, how difficult it was to build such a monument, and I actually think that probably even nowadays we would find it difficult to build such a beautiful construction, such a beautiful building. You know, we would have problems, I think, to build it in the same way. You know,
the Louvre pyramid. They tried electronically to do the project of the glass and the steel pyramid of the Louvre, aligned exactly at the same alignment of the Great Pyramid of Giza. They did it and checked it again, and the modern structure was had an error of more or less 1 degree, something huge. In comparison to the Great Pyramid of Giza, which had an error of 0 degrees, 0.04, something like this. So the Great Pyramid of Giza was more precise than the Louvre one.
Actually, we have to say that the light here touches 13 circles, and 13 is a lunar number. Again, it is related to the cycle of the moon. So we can actually say that this is especially the well of the moon, because every year there are usually 12 new moons or 12 full moons, but sometimes we have a year with 13 moons or new moons or 13 full moons. So again, we have a relation with the night star.
Yeah.
So our time is over, I think.
Yeah.
And anyway, we have a meeting here every Monday at 7 p.m. Italian time. And so we can meet again next week, the same time, with our Bridges of Light International, and we will go on with this travel along some of the most amazing places in ancient times related to the phenomena of celestial bodies. And so we thank all the people who were here following us tonight, and we will thank all the people who will join this video later on, because this often happens actually. And we hope you enjoyed it. I'm sure about it, because we show you really some special pictures, and we are ready to welcome you if you want to join us in the beautiful island of Sardinia. We organize many events, especially during the summer and early autumn, and you can actually see all the events on our website. If you just Google it, Arianna Mendo, you will find our website with all our appointments,
Yep.
Yeah, all the events we have already planned. So seeing you again on this beautiful group, we wish you very good time this evening, and see you soon.
And a good spiritual journey. See
Yes,
you.
See you.